Welcome to the gun room. It's a special gun room. It's an FA Cup special gun room. With me, we've got an empty room. That will be explained because Paul's having a few technical glitches. So he's run off to do whatever he's doing, tweaking this, tweaking that, probably getting new headphones or something. But with me, I've got Lauren in Barcelona, windy
Hello.
Barcelona.
Yeah, indeed, not the sunshine everyone associates with it, but all good.
He's coming back, but we'll go to Jay. How are you, Jay? We've missed you.
Yeah, good, all good, thank you.
I got an email, Jay, interrupting you slightly, about all your paraphernalia behind. Perhaps you can explain what you've got. What's the setup behind you?
Oh no, these are just so you've got signed Ian Wright shirt there,
Of course.
and then behind me I've got a signed Dennis Bergkamp shirt.
Oh,
and then
how dare you, sir?
this is it's very
good at this pointing stuff, isn't he?
That is basically all the legends put together in sort of drawn. My wife got me that for Christmas.
Brilliant.
That famous kits, obviously Thierry.
Oh, of course.
Thierry. Some beer mats, some just little pins there.
Fantastic.
Ian Wright. No, me and Tony Adams there, and Ian Wright.
What a show off. He's hobnobbing with all these Arsenal players.
And
Paul, can you hear us?
Oh no.
Oh no, we haven't got you, mate. Anyway, Jay, carry on about your paraphernalia round the back.
No, that's me with Ray Parlour, Paul Merson, Perry Graves.
Such a name dropper, isn't he? Have you noticed?
I like how you preface everything with, "Oh, it's just."
Well, there he was on one particular picture. Where's that one gone, Jay? He was with Charlie Nicholas, weren't you?
Yeah, that was that one then.
Oh, was it? Right, okay. Yeah, what a show off.
Mm.
Paul, any joy on the headphones microphone front? Oh, right, okay. Right, anyway, we'll carry on. So it's one of those things, isn't it? So it's an FA Cup special, Oxford away, one of the only grounds where you can celebrate a goal and keep an eye on your car. I thought that was really unique. It was like Halfords without the roof, wasn't it? So we're going to talk about that. Jay, these things, these contests, these type of contests, normally gritty affairs, aren't they? It's sort of priorities are changing constantly for us, especially with the lack of depth. What did you make of the match? The first half in particular, we'll talk about that because it was a bit heavy, wasn't it, on the eyelids?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, anyone that's seen or watched any FA Cup football down the years will know that when these ties spring up, when you have to travel, when bigger clubs have to travel to lower league opposition, you kind of know what you're going to get. They're going to be ultra aggressive, and they're going to be in your face, and they're going to, you're going to have to match them. And that first half, there was some pretty big tackles going in. There was a little bit of niggle off the ball. I mean, as far as the football goes, it was absolutely awful, like you said, but it was what I expected.
It reminded me, Jay, of a League One match, one of those dreary, dragged out sort of kicking shins contests.
Like it's obvious that they try and drag you down to their level, with all due respect. Like they weren't going to match us technically, but physically, they were obviously going to try and intimidate us. But ultimately we went a lot stronger than I thought we would in certain areas, even though we have got limited options. But I was still a bit surprised when the front three was named, as they were.
Yeah.
But I kind of sat there at half time and I thought, I think if we stick at this level, I think fitness alone was gonna be a major factor in how the game went. And we slowly started to get controlled sort of on the hour mark. We started to put them under a lot of pressure, and the quality showed. Some lovely goals, and they sort of, I wouldn't say crumbled, but the quality shone through, and I think they quickly gave up the ghost, didn't they? They quickly gave it up. And look, I was really impressed with the performance overall, the attitude. You just have to, like I said, just going back to what I was saying, sometimes you have to ride out like really physical approach. You just have to ride it out, you know, and defend well. And I thought we did that. Gabriel at the back made some great clearances, headers, without being put under too much pressure. I don't think Turner had to make too many saves, but I thought it was a good performance, and you know, good to see Vieira doing well in what was a tricky first half for him, but he really came on in the second half and played really well. So overall, I was delighted. Good to see Smith Rowe back. Yeah, good night overall.
Lauren, Arteta really didn't have many choices, did he? He had to rotate the squad. We got North London Derby coming up, so he had to do something, didn't he? 8 changes. What do people expect? Social media is going crazy, saying it was a poor performance, even blaming the white kit. Can you believe it? One comment was, "Wear white, play shy." You know, come on. It's nothing to do with the kit, and it's a PR stunt. But anyway, 8 changes, Lauren. It was bound to be a little bit disjointed. If you're wondering, Podders, why Paul keeps dropping in and out, he's got a few technical issues. Over to Lauren. 8 changes.
Yeah, I think exactly what Jay said. I was surprised when I did see the team and I saw, you know, an unchanged front 3. I think it does kind of go down to our lack of options there at the moment, especially with Jesus's injury. So not really ideal, but you know, I think given, you know, it is the FA Cup and we respect the competition a lot, so I wasn't too shocked really to see that it was a strong enough team. You know, the 8 changes, they were necessary for sure. I think, as you mentioned, you know, these players aren't playing week in, week out like we see in the Premier League. That team is well oiled at this stage. Everybody knows their position within the team, how to function on the pitch. Sorry. And it just did feel a bit disjointed. I think that was probably the biggest issue with the first half, was just trying to get the rhythm going, trying to, you know, I suppose ride the waves of that and smooth out the bumps in it. But overall, I was happy with it. I thought, you know, everyone did what they were asked to do, and a bit of magic from both Vieira and Nketiah, and I think we can't be too disappointed with that in the third round. You know, it was pretty good.
Well, apparently we can. According to social media, you can get fed up with anything on social media, can't you? Let's have a look at that side then. It was Matt Turner in goal, Kieran Tierney, Gabriel, Rob Holding. Nice to see him back. Tommy Asu, Vieira, El Neni, Sambi Lokonga, Gabriel Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah, and Bukayo Saka. I tell you what, it was the best bench I've seen all season. I looked at that bench and thought, "God, that'll do nice if it goes tits up." But now, as I say, that first half, it reminded me of a sort of League One match, huffing and puffing, sort of toing and throwing and all that stuff, with no real cast iron opportunities, bit of a scuff here and there. Oxford have been struggling this season. Is catching, Lauren. It's been struggling this season. I think they're about 15th in the table, but we nearly helped them out with the odd Monty Python bit of defending, didn't we? We looked a bit topsy-turvy at the back. I think a better team would have caused us problems, wouldn't they, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't underestimate the pitch, the quality of the pitch.
Oh, it was dire, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
seen better building sites.
Yeah, and the fact that, you know, behind that goal there was no stand, so obviously that affects the atmosphere, that affects the wind, and you know, I'm certainly not making excuses, because football, but ultimately when you play on absolutely immaculate pitches week in, week out, and then you go down to that, then I'm sure it must make a difference. And it was a bit of a leveler, I suppose, but like I said, you just have to ride it out, especially the first half. I mean, it was terrible to watch, wasn't it? It was a real slog. But they were up for it. I
was looking around the room for something to entertain me. I found the lamp quite interesting at one stage. It was that bad. But you're right. These pitches, when you're used to playing on Premier League pitches, and I can't think of one that's a bit dodgy in the Premier League at the minute. But I can go back to Plough Lane, Wimbledon, the original Wimbledon. It went down left to right or right to left, and it looked like there'd been an infestation of moles. And Wimbledon got the advantage because obviously when the ball landed, they knew where it was going to bounce because they played on that piece of old whatever. Paul, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some problem with the microphone.
Perseverance.
Yeah, there's some problem with the microphone, so I'm not the most technical person, but at the moment it's working again. I have to fiddle around with a few things. I'm sorry, Mr. Starsford. Did I miss the Vialli tribute, or are you doing that later?
No, we're doing that later. So
that's fine. Okay. And of course, what Jay said about the first half there, yeah, I was quite lucky when I watched the second half. So most of my so my views might be different to yours, Jay.
Well, the second half, we got a bit of a grip on the game, didn't we? I was begging for changes after a fashion. Much better levels from Arsenal in the second half. Different energy, different purpose. We'll get to the goals in a minute, but let's talk about those substitutions. Let's start with Xhaka and Zinchenko on for Lokonga and Tierney. Let's talk about the two that went off first. Sambi Lokonga, Lauren, he hasn't really developed and lived out his full potential, has he? I can't see any progress in him. Ian Wright mentioned it in an article I read this morning, but where do we go with this guy? Because there's now a growing sort of tension with Sambi Lokonga. Some people are saying like loan him out or flog him off.
Yeah, I think in the most respectful way possible, the game did change with those two substitutions. And I think Tierney, as much as Lokonga, I have to say, I thought he was pretty limited in terms of creativity when he was on the pitch. Going back to Lokonga, yeah, I think again it was a rather disappointing performance, not really stepping up to the mark. It does leave you very worried when you think, you know, if Partey does pick up an injury, which he's very liable to do, we're very, very stuck. What are we going to do about that? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think Lokonga's the man for the job. I think a loan move is probably the best because obviously Arteta's seen something in him. He must be doing something right. He's had a few good games last season, but this season when he's been given the chance, it does seem as though he's struggling a bit under the pressure. He's not really, you know, growing, as you've mentioned. I think a loan move is really the only option there. You know, and it was throughout the game last night, people were saying, "Oh, send him off. He's earned his league what is it, League loan this season." One of those kind of players, you know. And I don't think it's a bad shout. I mean, he even came onto his Instagram today and he kind of, you know, acknowledged the fact that he was disappointed with the performance he put in, and you know, it's obviously hard to see, especially in such a crucial position, because once those changes were made, that's when the team really did, you know, it got its spark back and it kind of came to life and the game changed completely, which is really disappointing for a player of his quality. But we just need to be able to find out how we can really harness that from him to make sure that he's, I suppose, becoming one of those fluid players that can play in the system, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
disappointing
I get the fact that they take time to settle in and all that sort of stuff, but he's kind of had his time, hasn't he? You know, he's been there a while now. We should be getting all. We've had Tommy Asu. He just comes in and just does it, you know, from the get go. Jay, Kieran Tierney, what did you? We're coming to you in a minute, Paul. Don't worry, we're not blowing you out. Kieran Tierney, what did you make of that performance? It was slightly odd, wasn't it?
I mean, you look at the game in isolation, and like everybody struggled for the most part. You know, Bukayo Saka, the most consistent player for us this season, he looked well off it. And like I said, I don't think you can underestimate the pitch and the atmosphere, how it affects the players. And you know, Lokonga wasn't great. I do, you know, you can see that he's low on confidence, and I do have a fair amount of sympathy with him on that front, because if you don't play, then you're not going to build any confidence, you know, and everybody knows that without confidence, you're not going to play to your full potential, when you're not going to be able to express yourself the way you want to express yourself. You know, it was only a couple of weeks back when Jesus picked up an injury that everybody was questioning Nketiah, and you know, and he's took his chance with the goals that he scored, but before that, you know, he was very limited time on the pitch, and that obviously makes people second guess him. And it's the same with Lokonga. You know, if you don't get any time on the pitch, people are obviously going to question you. Now, when he does get on the pitch, he definitely hasn't convinced me. Last night, I think in isolation, I think it's harsh to really condemn him, but I think it's more to do with what he's done, you know, when he has played in, say, the Europa League and the bits and pieces that we've seen. He definitely could do with a loan move where he can gain some confidence. Tierney, again, similar, you know, he's desperate to play. I think you know what you're going to get with him. There was a couple of nice challenges that he made. He's always up for the physical side, which I love. But ultimately, he's technically not as good as Zinchenko, and he doesn't offer as much as Zinchenko does. The way that Zinchenko picks up the position between defence and midfield and moves more central to help out the midfield, meaning Xhaka can push further up. Kieran Tierney's more of a natural defender, and that is what you're going to get. So I suppose from that point of view, he's a much more limited player. Saying that, he's a really good defender, and it wasn't that long ago that he was key to us, you know. And it's just unfortunate for him that obviously Arteta's decided to go down the Zinchenko route. And I mean, we are a different team with Zinchenko in it. You know, he's so consistent, and it's tough for Tierney because he's not being given a chance, and he must be frustrated. He certainly doesn't come across like somebody who would cause any issues in the squad or at training or whatever. But I kind of get the feeling sometimes with Tierney at the moment, he's really desperate to put in a performance and to make an impression because he's not getting too many opportunities. So I thought last night was a bit like that. I didn't think he did too badly, but again, it wasn't a surprise to see him come off because as soon as Zinchenko, like Lauren said, as soon as Zinchenko and Xhaka came on, the game completely changed, and not down to him, but I think we all know that with Tierney, he's probably one of the players who will potentially leave in the summer, you know, because you could get some half decent money for him, and also he can't argue with not being in the team because the player who's taking his place is so effective and so crucial to us. So. I wouldn't want him to leave. Certainly wouldn't want him to leave because he definitely adds a quality and depth to the squad. But as the season goes on, his chances are going to get fewer and fewer, aren't they? So I know that was a bit of a long answer, but I kind of don't want him to leave. I don't want him to leave as a supporter, but I can understand because he could play for most Premier League teams, couldn't he? I safely say that, you know, and it's a bit of a waste to have him just sitting on the bench and playing the odd minute here or there. So
plus you've got Tommy Asu, haven't you, who can take that side as well. So well, he'll play anywhere, won't he? He'll send it forward if we need it. But Paul, Zinchenko and Xhaka on. What did Xhaka bring to the party? I mean, as everyone said, it kind of got a lot better when they were introduced, didn't it?
Yeah, I think Xhaka brought what Xhaka always
from your second half perspective.
Yeah. I mean, listen to you, Jay and Lauren talk. I think that's quite a good choice from my point of view. I mean, Xhaka brought to the game what he always brings to Arsenal. He brings a bit of competitiveness. He brings a bit of intensity. He wins tackles. He starts passing the ball around. He gets control of the midfield. And certainly, you know, as I think Jay's outlined there, you know, the introduction of both Zinchenko and Xhaka changed the game considerably in Arsenal's favour. And I mean, go back to the point you made about Tierney there, Jay. Yeah, you're right. He's a really good left back. But at the moment, isn't it brilliant that you've got that competition between Tierney and Zinchenko? And if Zinchenko is injured, Tierney can step in. You know, it's good to have that quality in reserve there as well. And I think, you know, from what we're seeing in Arsenal this season, Zinchenko fits Arteta's system in a better way than what Tierney does, and maybe allows Arsenal to have a far more of an attacking threat. But you know, it's always difficult these cup games against low league opposition because, you know, I think you mentioned, Jay, about the players being out of the comfort zone, the pitch, the three-sided ground, and the intensity of the atmosphere. It just takes a bit of adjustment to get used to playing on. Because they're so used to playing on these, you know, these bowling greens in the Premier League, it just comes a bit of a shock to realise that the old style pitches still exist lower down the system. But I mean, I think you saw there, you know, why Xhaka in particular has been integral to Arsenal's success this season. Because when you need someone to come to give the team basically a kick up the backside and get them back on target, he was the man to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to just touch on Zinchenko again, Lauren, because I mean, I spent a period of that second half just watching him. I do that from time to time, and then I'll play the match back to get the bits that I missed. But he drifts across the middle, doesn't he? He goes from the left to the middle. He had a real influence. He's just here, there, and everywhere. And what I love about him is his appetite. He's always looking for the ball. He's always looking to move forward. He's an incredible player. What a bargain. I mean, Man City must really regret letting him go.
100%. And I think it's kind of, you know, he obviously had his injuries there before, but the mentality that he brings, and he's such a great player to have in the squad. And I'm sure you've all seen his home gym that he has with the pretty impressive murals on the wall and everything. He is a great player to have in the squad, and he really just he drips kind of winner's mentality, and I think that is 100% what we need in just even in the squad. Not if he's not starting every week, great to have the competition between him and Tierney. And I think we're seeing more and more how important the options are for Arteta's system, as Paul outlined there. You know, those are such key positions for Arteta's team. And I think, you know, the first half as well, it was outlined pretty well on BBC last night, or ITV, whichever one it was, that you know, a few times Tomiyasu was trying to get forward and he ended up just going backwards, and there was kind of a bit of a, you know, there wasn't that much progression from the fullbacks which we normally see in the league, and I think that was something that was missing completely. And then once Zinchenko came on, he was able to pick those passes and to progress the ball in a much more fluid way than had happened in the first half. And I think that probably is one of the big factors that changed the game for us. But he's incredible. He really, really is. And as you said, what a bargain.
Well, I'll tell you what, as soon as they came on, I was kind of like, oh, here we go. Here we go. We're going to go through the gears now. We had to wait until the 63rd minute for the breakthrough, and it came from an unlikely source, Mohamed El Neni. Up until that point, I was watching Vieira, and nothing really clicked with me. I didn't think, oh, you know, he's having a good one or a bad one. It was quite an indifferent performance. But he suddenly came up with the goods, didn't he? Showed his class, his ability to deliver a game-changing ball from that free kick, Jay.
Oh yeah, I mean, that you knew as soon as that cross was, well, that free kick was put into the box, you know, that is right on the money. That is right into the danger area where Premier League defences really struggle to defend, and if your keeper doesn't come out, you know, the defense is in sort of big trouble. And El Neni was there, you know, Tomiyasu was right behind him, desperate to get his head on it as well. Look, great delivery. Yeah, I think, I mean, on Twitter last night, Vieira was getting pelters, you know, for his performance. And I mean, we're all pretty similar sort of like-minded people. We don't jump on the player's back straight away. You know, he's so young, Vieira. And
he's only 23, isn't he?
Potentially, I think he might be even younger. I don't know. But he's come over from Portugal, and you know, like grounds like Oxford, he wouldn't have expected to be playing on something like that, you know, and on that pitch in that stadium. And I bet it was, you know, he probably won't admit it, but I bet it was a bit of a shock to him, you know. And there was a challenge in the second half where their centre half went right through the back of him, and you know, he's only small, he's only short, and he doesn't weigh anything. And I kind of thought, you know, this is a big moment for him, because he could either, you know, signal to the bench and want to come off because he just doesn't fancy it, or he can roll up his sleeves. And that free kick was beautiful, really was. But the second assist, I mean, that's pure class. That's what you're buying for. That's what, you know, he picked up that little space and laid that ball through. And he's a good player. You know, he's still got to improve. And we haven't seen much of him, but ultimately he plays in such a position where, you know, he's got the skipper in front of him, and you know, Odegaard's having a great season. He's got to be patient, but he took his chance, just like Nketiah has taken his chance, and it's super encouraging for the rest of the season.
Paul, have a word with these Arsenal fans. I mean, you've got to be patient with this guy, haven't you? As Jay said, he's got a few issues. He's new to the country. He's new to most things, the coach, the team, the division. I mean, you know, it's quite easy for fans to get irate all of a sudden, isn't it? And nobody does it better than Arsenal fans.
Oh yeah, well we have a few similar Goodison, don't worry, Tom. But yeah, I mean,
You get a crowd at Goodison these days. Put him my leg.
Yeah, I don't know why giving recent performances what we do. Like, I've just stopped the refunds on the season tickets, unfortunately. But yeah, going back to your point though, yeah, you know, it's easy for certain people just to slag the players off, isn't it? And I think, you know, I think people still underestimate how hard it is for a young player who's left his family, who's moved to a new country, he's learned a different language, he's getting used to a new system, he's getting used to a new manager. You know, he might feel quite lonely at times. You know, it really is quite, you know, a hard adjustment, you know, to make. I mean, a lot of when you move to Barcelona, I bet it took you a little while to find your feet there and get used to the lifestyle, the coach, and things like that. So I'm sure you have understanding of how difficult that can be. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was forced to only saw the second half, so I thought it was a masterclass from the end of the second half. To be honest, as Jay said, that free kick he took. I hate to use the words because no one go down well on this show, but it was very Gareth Bale. Like it was just so good with his left foot. He just picked out, you know, picked out how many there to score. Fantastic free kick, said he was, and the pass for Nketiah's first goal, was just superb as well. And just a quick word about Nketiah, I thought his performance was excellent last night. You look at both the goals he scored. In both times, he makes the keeper move first, which is a real skill that not many strikers have. So often, those kind of one-on-one situations, strikers panic, they balloon the ball against the goalkeeper. Both times, he waits that split second for the goalkeeper to have to dive or the goalie to make the first move, and then he sees what the opportunity is and takes the goal really well. Two really good finishes, both from different positions. Playing on the last line of defence as well, he's got the pace to get behind the last defender. So, although there was understandable concerns about Jesus not being fit, and I know the different type of players, but at the moment, if Nketiah's job is to put the ball in the back of the net, I think he's doing that admirably. With 5 goals in 5 games now, and he just seems to be growing in confidence to me from game to game. And I think what you saw, for the third goal, Martinelli, players from midfield will make the passes if they know the striker's going to be there to run onto them. And I think he's just going to get better and better at that. And maybe it's not just going to be a shame for Jesus coming back when he's fit. You never know.
Well, we're going to talk about him quite a bit because there's some interesting stuff. Mikel Arteta came out, and David Seaman's come out with some stuff. We'll talk about that. As you say, 2-0, Eddie Nketiah, brilliant ball from Vieira, right on the money, wasn't it? So exciting. The cherry on the cake, as I say, was the 76th minute for me. It sums up Nketiah, and are we really now, because of this run, he's proving his doubters wrong, are we really going to look for a striker in the absence of Jesus? It's a really dodgy piece of ground, Lauren, isn't it?
It is, of course, but you look to the likes of City and you see the depth they have in their squad, and I think if you want to push for the title, you need to have options and be prepared for worst case scenario. What happens next game if Nketiah picks up an injury? What do we do then? We're pretty stuck, I think, we talked or you mentioned there, our bench yesterday was so strong, and you kind of felt that
First
if
time
the
this
game
season
wasn't going right, exactly. You felt if the game wasn't going right, we had options. And I think Premier League games, we're kind of looking at the bench. Okay, yeah, you have Vieira, but he's never really the first person brought on. It's very rare that we see an appearance from him in the Premier League. And I think, the Newcastle game is the perfect example. When we're stuck, who do we turn to? If we can't find it with the players that we have who are available, who aren't injured, what options do we have? So I think, yes, a striker, but not as Jesus's replacement. It's as another option for, games that we're finding tight. And there's going to be more difficult games coming up now. Obviously we have a tough run of games, but also just we're in that crucial part of the season where options are necessary. we're still in 3 competitions as things stand. It's tough, and I don't see why not, if the resources are there, to have backup that we can rely on, you know.
Well, Arteta came out and he praised Eddie. He said he showed great composure. He's a great finisher, timing of his runs as well. A decision making him wait till the last moment shows his quality. It's not only that, it's his understanding, his work rate. I think he gets better and better. So as a plus side, so, you know, we're not going to go down that route of going into the transfer market. But he does add, the problem is we only have one. And to go for that many months till Jesus is back is not easy. So he's kind of sitting on the fence a little bit, isn't he? He's teasing us. He's like, well, I might get one, I might not. See what comes up. So, Jay, the overall performance, we've discussed the goals, 2 blinders for Nketiah and really showing his worth. What's your overall performance of that game of 2 halves?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the start, I was pleased. So many good things came out of the game. I mean, just going back to that Vieira's second assist, you know, what I loved most about it was that he put the ball the other side of the defender. Nketiah's running off to the left, and it would have been, I think, a lot of players in that position would have put it down that side, and he almost could have crossed the defender, knowing that Nketiah's movement would be that good to come around the other side. And Nketiah, full of confidence, took the goal well, like Paul brilliantly described. And his confidence is growing, and that second goal, very Ian Wright, you know, that little dink.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
There's a lot of aspects of his game that remind me of Ian Wright. And I agree with Laura. I don't think we'll go for a striker. I think it's such a hard sell, you know, when you've got a player of Jesus' quality that he's going to be number one. And Nketiah is now showing that he can be a good replacement. I'd be surprised if we go for a striker, although I'd love one. You know, I don't really know what's going on with Mudryk. You know, I don't really know.
It's coming, mate. It's coming. I've had the word. I've had the word this week. About 3 days ago, they said, "Oh, don't worry, it's coming."
Yeah, sincerely hope so. And I know
if I get that wrong, shoot me.
I know there's sort of 2-3 weeks left of the window, but just sign the bloke. Just sign him. Just get him in. But overall, really positive. Smith Rowe back, brilliant. Good confidence boost for Vieira. I thought Turner looked all right. You know, wasn't really pushed or didn't really have to make too many saves, but he was quick off his line, and there was that one-on-one where he came out and looked really sharp. And I mean, it was a tough game. It was your typical FA Cup tie. You knew what was going to come, especially in the first half, and we dealt with it really well. I thought Gabriel made some really good headers, headed clearances, and then obviously we managed to. I mean, I think when Saka went down, there was the gasp, but I think he's all right. So. Look, pleased, and some lovely goals, and some of the sort of fringe players stepped up, El Neni and co. So yeah, pleased.
Right, let's dig back into the Eddie Nketiah thing, because David Safehan Seaman came out and said the problem is you don't know how long Gabriel Jesus is going to be out for, and he said if it's a shorter term injury. Then you need a replacement. If it's you don't need a replacement. If it's a longer term injury, then you've got to think about it. But he mentions that if you're Nketiah and another striker comes in, that's going to upset the apple cart. If it's not on loan and it's permanent, then that is going to be a problem, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, but that's where you pay the managers to make the decisions about consistency. He has to make the judgment call on whether.
Oh, you're very harsh, Paul.
I mean, you're looking to constantly improve the team, aren't you? And competition for places is always healthy. But you look at Man City squad as a comparison. And they've got a wealth of options on the bench for changing games, and I don't think ours have quite got that same array of options at the moment. I mean, I think as Jay said there, if the money's available and a striker's ready to come in, I think you have to gamble. This is a unique this is a really, really good opportunity to win the Premier League title. I think that there comes a time when you have to gamble, and obviously you do your work in terms of the data to make sure you're getting somebody who's got the skill set the team needs, and also make sure you're bringing the right type of player who's not going to disrupt the harmony. And I think Edu's shown with his recruitments, Arsenal's recruitment has proved immensely this season. So I definitely think as you mentioned, if Nketiah were to get injured as well, then that could really potentially derail the whole season. And seeing that Arsenal is still in the Europa League, still in the FA Cup, I just think you need that option. Whether it's a loan signing or whether it's a big money signing, I don't think it makes any difference really. I think and also as well in terms of putting pressure on your rivals as well. Okay, now if Arsenal bring in an established striker, well, that makes the other teams look up a bit, doesn't they? Oh, hang on, what's going? The strength in all the key areas here. So yeah, and I think I thought you touched on the return of Smith Rowe. I've always rated Smith Rowe really, really highly. I remember seeing a Goodison about 4 years ago. He was about 18 at the time. He ran the game, and me and my son came out the match saying, "Who is that guy? I've never seen him before. He's just so good. He's so skillful." So that's going to be a big asset to the team once he's back to full fitness as well. But I think there's 20 odd days left of this transfer window. If the money's in the bank, if someone's available, I think you have to go for it.
Paul, can I ask you something? Would you straight swap deal Kieran Tierney for Calvert-Lewin?
That's a really good. That's a really good question, actually, Jay. I mean, if we had another striker, then that could be something to be considered. But I think from the Arsenal perspective, you'd be taking somebody there whose injury record the past 18 months or so really hasn't been that good. So from that perspective, it might well be the case that if you're taking on a injury-prone Calvert-Lewin, and we're getting an established international quality left back, then
injury-prone as well, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, true, yeah. But
we'll swap injuries.
Yeah. I mean, you only said it because we were sort of heavily linked with Calvert-Lewin, and he would be somebody that it wouldn't be too expensive because of the injuries, and obviously just through Tierney, and because he would be somebody that I think he would improve Everton, and he would get play week in, week out, and they have similar injury records.
No, it's a fair point, Jay. At least when I was on the pod last season, I think Mitch was insisting we take Cedric Suarez in an exchange deal for Calvert-Lewin. That was never going to interest us, was it?
Very optimistic.
I think. I mean, to be honest, I think at the moment we'd be more interested in a straight swap between Calvert-Lewin and Nketiah, the way Nketiah's playing, to be honest, because we were saying last night watching the game that Nketiah would walk into Everton's forward line. There was absolutely no question about that. He'd probably walk into most teams' starting 11 at the moment, given the form that he's showing. But yeah, that's a really interesting proposition. That I think it's the wrong time for that to happen, Jay. But I think if that was to be resurrected in the summer, I think that's a deal that could possibly benefit both teams.
You heard it here first. Let's just do another thing for you, Potters. Let's look at a different sort of scenario as well, because if, say, bare minimum, we get top 4, I'm not putting a downer on it, but we've got the Champions League, so we've got all these competitions coming up. You could do with another striker, surely. You could actually do with just topping up the ranks. 3 would be ideal, and I would have thought that was the bare minimum for all these competitions. Don't you, Lauren?
100%, I agree. It is a tough sell, though, as I think it was Jay mentioned. You're coming in now, and I think Paul made a really good point as well. Is Jesus going to walk straight into the starting 11? I don't think so when he's back. I really don't. I think Nketiah has shown that, he's doing something that's quite rare, and he's being an out-and-out number 9, and he's putting the goals in the back of the net, which is something that Jesus was missing from his game. Now, they do offer something very, very different, but it's a tough one. It's a tough one. 2 really great quality strikers, and it's a tough sell. I thought when we were linked with Joao Felix, that kind of made sense to me. Excuse me, a loan until the end of the season. He's probably going to get a few games in, but I think for a long-term sell, it's a tough one, but a necessary one for sure.
We'll get to the transfers as well, because there's transfers in.
I just add just one more thing on next season. Flo Balogun he's scoring goals in France, and he's doing so well there. I kind of think that maybe that in the back of Arteta and Edu's mind. I'm with Paul. You have to go for it. You have to go for the title. You have to take your chance now and go, grasp it with both hands. However, I just think maybe they're being a little bit more cautious with Balogun in the background, banging goals in France, thinking next season when, Tom, like you said, we've got so many more games. Well, potentially not more games, a lot more tougher games with the Champions League. I just wonder if Balogun's going to come back and be that third striker and play in the cup games because he's showing that he can score and he's doing a really good job over there. I think it's only Mbappe and Neymar that have scored more than him, so he could be an option for next year.
What do they call it? The Farmers League.
Well, look, we took Saliba back this summer, and look how well that worked out for us. So we can criticise it all we want, but I think that's a good point, Jay. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, so do
Sure.
I. Right, let's do these match stats then. Oxford, 7 shots, Arsenal 11. 3 shots on target for them, 4 for us, 35% possession for them, 65 for us, 274 passes, 482 for the Gunners, 70% pass accuracy for them, and 82% for us. Lauren, let's bring us up to date with the WSL. A few ins and outs.
Yeah,
exciting, isn't it? At least someone's getting some people in.
I was going to say I feel like the men's, we're so stuck on whether Mudryk is coming in, and then I blinked on Thursday and there was, I blinked on Thursday and there was about 3 transfer updates with the women. I was thinking, oh my God, they're not sitting back waiting here. So, I mean, the big one to start with, of course, is Jordan Nobbs, Arsenal legend. She has left the club after 12 years and she's joined Aston Villa. It makes sense. She wasn't getting that much game time, really. She was excluded from England's Euro squad last summer, mostly due to injuries, but she just wasn't getting the game time that, she needs or probably that she deserves with Arsenal. She's into her 30s now. Based on the signings that we're getting in, it does look like Ida Vala is trying to build a bit of a younger squad as well. They're kind of, the youngest being 19, I think it is 19 to kind of 21. So it looks like he's trying to bring in the younger squad. It's really sad to see her go. She had an amazing spell with Arsenal. 12 years there, she'd won 12 trophies. An Arsenal legend probably doesn't do justice to what she brought to the club. So it was really, really sad day to see her go. But I think everyone could kind of understand, her point of view and her need for game time.
It was sad, but they got £35,000 for her from the old Aston Vanilla. 270 appearances, 81 goals, 12 titles, as she said, and 12 years at the club. Wish her well, wish her all the best, but she needed to move on. It was crucial, really. She's at that point where she has to get game time. Iwabuchi is set to leave this month. Bring us up to speed with that, Lauren. Good idea. I quite liked her as a player.
I do like her as well. It's just she doesn't really seem to be fitting in with Ida Vala's plans, and she's really not getting any game time. Even with the amount of injuries that we have, she's always on the bench. There was a bit of drama. I can't remember exactly when it was. Maybe October, November time when she was brought on for the last minute and a half of the game, and Miedema kind of turned around and had a bit of a on the pitch discussion with the manager about that, saying, a player of her quality shouldn't really be disrespected with 90 minutes of game time, that kind of way. So again, it would be disappointing to see her go, but for her own sake, it's probably a necessary move. And as you said, she's a great player. She's very, very strong, Japanese international. And we have to remember as well, it's a World Cup summer this summer. So as much game time as possible is what these players are looking for. And you kind of have to feel for them and say, do what's right for you, that kind of way.
A couple of incomings. I'll let you pronounce them, Lauren. You do it better than I think.
I'll do my best. Exactly. So 2 new signings, of course, as I mentioned, young, very, very, very promising players. First one was Victoria Pelova. So Dutch international. She mentioned before that Miedema had spoke to her and she'd kind of encouraged her to consider joining Arsenal. She even offered her to stay at her house while she was getting set up, that kind of way. So that's really exciting. Obviously she knows Miedema. which is going to be a benefit to the team. She is signed from Ajax, who we played against them last season. And yeah, she just looks really, really promising. Young player again. I think she's only 19. Sorry, no, she's 23. But you know, young, very, very promising future. So the other one's 19. She's only 23. Again, a great European caliber player to get in. It's exciting. It's very exciting to see what she brings to the team. And then we also have, as I mentioned, another player coming in, which was Catherine Kuhl, I think. Danish.
I would have done.
I think that's anyway. Danish forward, 19 years of age. She's coming from the Danish league. It's a massive jump for her, but she's been described as, you know, one of the great, you know, Scandinavian youth players. So it's going to be great to see what they bring to the team. Like I said, they're very young. Hopefully we can find a great balance between the experience we already have in the team and these young players coming in who already have European experience behind them. So it's exciting. It is exciting. And we also recalled Gio from her loan spell at Everton. So she went in the summer. We just signed her from Barcelona. I think it was to do with the amount of injuries we have, you know, just trying to add some more depth to the squad. So it's been busy. It's been very busy. Mightn't have had any games yet back in the WSL, but trying to keep up with all the transfer news has certainly been a job in itself.
I've been trying to gauge both, but there's nothing going on with the men's apart from Mudryk, and that's a done deal. Believe me, it's a done deal.
Okay, we'll take your word for it.
Yeah, Chelsea on the 15th, over 40,000 tickets sold. It's too early to call it a defining game, Lauren, isn't it? But it's certainly going to have an impact on the eventual outcome.
It is, and I think, you know, anytime Arsenal and Chelsea meet in the WSL, it is a defining game. The two, you know, obviously United are doing well this season, but if you were to say, it is probably going to be between Arsenal and Chelsea come the end of the season. So it could be a season defining game. It's a tough one straight back after the break, you know, you're facing, you know, first and second playing in the Emirates again. So we're back there after our defeat against United, but nevertheless,
Don't talk about that.
40,000, we're not going to mention that. 40,000 ticket sales is incredible. Potential to break the WSL record. You know, hopefully everyone can get behind the team, and it's also the same day as the North London derby. So there should be a great atmosphere. It should really, really, really be an electric atmosphere, and hopefully we have enough within the squad and in the support to carry us over the line.
Do you fancy our chances?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, worst case scenario, we'll have a draw. Why not?
I'll take that as well.
Honestly, yeah.
I'll take that.
So, as Lauren, give us the cue for the North London derby. Let's look at that. Form kind of goes out the window, doesn't it, Jay? League positions doesn't really matter with this one. This is a real ding-donger. Everyone who's a Gooner is so hyped up for this one. We want to spank these monkeys, don't we?
Yeah.
Not sure that was the right terminology, but you know, we'll go with it.
Yeah, we do.
Who do you see as the main threat? The usual suspects, Son and Kane?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Harry Kane is, you know, he's banging the goals in left, right, and centre. Form, like you said, does go out the window. Home advantage is massive in these games. But the main thing for me is we've got to keep 10 outfield players on the pitch. You know, we can't afford another Rob Holding red card or any red card. You know, you got to expect the standard penalty, Harry Kane penalty. You got to expect that. But I'm confident, you know, if we start the game like we have every Premier League game this season on the front foot and, you know, crisp passing, you know, I think we're more than good enough to get a result. Hate these games, you know, it's just incredibly.
It's nice to come out the other side, isn't it? When you got
incredibly
result,
uncomfortable to watch him. Yeah. I don't know whether. Would you take a draw now? Would you take a draw?
Well,
with Man United playing Man City the same weekend.
I think I would. I mean, last time out when we got spanking off them, we only had to go for the draw last season, didn't we? And we got pulled all out of shape and went for the throat and came off worse. So yeah, on paper, right now, I don't want to say it too loudly in case any Arsenal neighbours hear me, but yeah, I'd take a draw if we must.
Yeah, I think Spurs, they're obviously, they've had a bit of an indifferent season, but I think all of that goes out the window. You know, Kane is somebody who, you know, regularly, you know, on a regular basis bangs the goals in against us. You know, but Saliba's had a great season, so you know he could, you know, that'll be a great matchup. They haven't got too many players that I can think of, you know, attack-minded players that could really hurt us. But look, if we start well, brilliant. Manage to keep, if we need to keep 11 players on the pitch, we have to do that. We can't go down to 10 men. Can't be any stupid moments. So huge game. I think with City playing United first, or the, you know, on the Saturday, I do wonder if, say, you know, if United managed to get a draw there, I don't know whether that would, you know, subconsciously have an effect on some of the play. I don't know, maybe not, but you know, two really big games. So I'm probably with you, Tom. I'd probably take a draw now.
I think we'll win. I mean, it's as simple as that. The form we've been in, we're irresistible. They've gone through a patchy time. Paul, have you seen much of Spurs this season? They're so indifferent, aren't they? You watch them. I think Arsene Wenger said from his hotel room, he watched Spurs and then nodded off. Well, he would do, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of Tottenham this season. I watched the last home defeat against Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago. I think defensively, Tottenham are nowhere near as strong as they were last season. I still think, I've never rated Hugo Lloris. I think you know, his reputation far exceeds his ability, and certainly I think from Arsenal's point of view, every time the ball's passed back to Lloris, and then Kessie running straight at him, close them down, because his close control of the ball, bringing out defence, is not very good. You see, he's weak for long shots as well, so maybe that'll be another thing to consider as well. Tottenham's defence, I think they conceded 7 goals in their last 3 home games, so there's certainly there's weaknesses there that I think Arsenal can take advantage of. We've talked in the past, the 4 of us here, about how in certain away games Arsenal have gone it right from the start. They've attacked right from the start, and I think the North London derby is an example when really I think Arsenal have got to go Tottenham from the start, because I think the pressure's on Tottenham, because they need to, you know, try and disrupt Arsenal's title challenge. So the pressure's all on them, and I think, you know, I think as you outlined there, Tom, I think Arsenal got the quality to win the game. In terms of danger men, Jay, as well, I was also wondering about Kulusevski. I've always been quite impressed when I see him play. He's got the ability to kind of unlock defensive with crosses and passes. So I think he's someone Arsenal have to watch out for as well. But, you know, revenge is a hugely motivating factor in football, isn't it? You know, I know every Arsenal player, every Arsenal fan will want to get revenge for what happened last season and the consequences of that defeat as well. So I think, no, I don't think Arteta needs to give a motivating team talk. I think, you know, the match itself is motivational for the team, and yeah, I think, you know, teams have kind of sussed out Tottenham's tactics now, haven't they? The Tottenham will see possession, try and hit them on the break with Son and Kane. I'm sure Arteta looked at the videos from last season to see where the game was thrown away. Point Jay made there as well about discipline. I know it's hard in derby matches to keep your discipline, but they really have to keep 11 men on the pitch. I wouldn't have Rob Holding in the starting after that game. Definitely, I don't.
After last time,
I don't think he'd be anywhere near that starting lineup. But yeah, it's yeah, you made a good point there, Jay, as well. But whether the outcome of the United City game changes the mindset, I don't know. I know if City were to go to Old Trafford, get a convincing 3-4-0 win, does that really, you know, ramp the pressure up on Arsenal? Vice versa, if City were to lose, I'd take the pressure up. I don't know. But I think when you're in a winning vein of form, you've got to keep that winning vein of form going for as long as possible. So if there's a chance to go there, get some revenge for last season, lay down a marker that, you know, this is, we've gone to our closest rivals, we've shown them who's the best team in London, we've gone for the win. I think you have to go for it.
That's inspirational, Paul. I feel like I'm already there. I feel like we've already won, and we've got Mudryk, apparently. Lauren, there's so many key kind of contests from an Arsenal point of view. Saliba and White have got a big job, haven't they, taming old Son? but both up to it. And then you've got Partey. If he turns up and starts nipping at the heels of Harry Kane, as long as it's not in the penalty area, he's not going to get sniff, is he?
You'd hope not. And Partey has turned up every game for us this season. We haven't dropped points with him in the league yet. He's really been the key. It's going to be an exciting one, and I think it's the start of, obviously we've just played Newcastle, but it's the start of kind of the big 6 run of games we have, or the big 5 run of games we have. It's a tough one, and I think, as the lads mentioned, if City were to drop points, I think we've seen previously this season that it hasn't affected Arsenal. When they ended up drawing against Everton, it was, Arsenal came out, they put in a good performance, and they got was it 3 points that day, or they drew? I can't remember, but they didn't drop points anyway. I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think, after every game, the same message is reiterated. We take one game at a time, we focus on this game. And, this weekend's going to be no different. It's an exciting one. It'll be a tough one. But I think overall we do have the quality and the mentality to push through, which is important.
Jay, another key area is the left-hand side. Zinchenko, Tierney, Tomiyasu. Who should you pick there?
Oh, Zinchenko definitely will play. I think the left-hand side for us, with Martinelli as well, the right-hand side for Spurs, the defence on the right has been a problem for them this season. They've chopped and changed, whether it's is it Doherty?
Yeah, the guy from Wolves, yeah.
Emerson Royale is terrible. I hope Royale plays.
Yeah.
We were linked with him. Can you believe it?
He's dreadful.
Like a bag of wet washing.
He does not look like a professional footballer, but I hope he plays. But I think Martinelli, that battle there, whoever plays right back for Spurs, Martinelli, that side for us could be a real, a big plus point with Zinchenko as well. And then obviously Saka on the right. I kind of expect maybe Perisic to drop a little bit deeper because he's got the big game experience. And then, Højbjerg in the middle will be doing his best to wind Xhaka up. But the key battle for us really is if we can keep Kane quiet. He drops into those spaces behind, almost into the number 10 role, and you'll see Son bombing on and doing his old tricks. And if we can,
he's a dirty little toe rag, isn't he? That Son. If you watch him any length of time, he's elbows and arms and all sorts. He's a nasty little bugger.
I mean, do you remember, Paul? You will remember this when he broke Gomez's leg.
Yeah. And then he
started crying.
He started crying. Yeah, and he got this wave of sympathy. That was just pulling the guy's leg.
Yeah. And it wasn't an accident.
No.
And there's been a few occasions like that. There've been a few where he's
always crying, to be honest. He's sponsored by Kleenex.
And he even got that red card rescinded as well, got downgraded. Unbelievable.
Yeah. But I mean, Kulusevski, like you said, Paul, good player, really good. Too good for them, really. He probably needs to leave. I don't know if Bentancur's fit for him. He makes a difference when he plays. But man for man, like Lauren said, we've got the players to really hurt them. And I just think on the day, I think Martinelli could be a really good outlet because they struggle on that right-hand side, Spurs do. And Lloris is definitely somebody who we need to test, and we need to pepper the goal with shots because he's not in good form. I think he's been in decline for a few years now. But it's the game and it's the atmosphere that we've got to deal with. And if an early goal against and a few big tackles going in, it's going to be a big test of character. That's why I think, the game at Oxford, obviously completely different game, but I think there's certain elements of that game that could work in our favour, for Sunday. It's being able to deal with the aggressive, real aggressive tackles, and it's going to be a big atmosphere in there. And I mean, they're just horrible games. I just thinking about it now, it's not something that not a game that I've none of us enjoy it.
No,
it's only when it's finished, isn't it? In your stomach stops.
You win, you loved it.
Yeah,
you lose, and like Paul made a great point. Last year it was a real low point going there, and playing. The performance was really bad, and we did.
Horrible.
Our arse did fall out, and our players we couldn't deal with the pressure. I mean, there were a few, factors that contributed to that dodgy penalty. But Rob Holding, obviously the red card made a massive difference. But I think if it's 0-0, 60, 70 minutes, I really fancy us. We've got a lot more attacking threat than they have. They rely heavily on two players going forward, don't they? Keep them quiet. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Keep them quiet.
We've got so many players that could actually hurt them. As you say, on the flanks. Eddie Nketiah, if there's a loose ball, he's on it. Odegaard threading things through. We just have to make sure we're solid at the back and we don't take too many risks. Right, let's do around the table. Paul, prediction.
2-1 Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. Good man. I'll pay you later. Jay?
Yeah. 1-0 Arsenal. I'm going old school. 1-0 Arsenal.
Lauren, you love this bit?
I do. I'm going to go with 3-1 Arsenal.
I'm going to go absolutely bonkers. I really fancy it. I think we can do them. I'll take the draw if it's available, but I think we're going to do them 4-0. 4-0, people.
Yes.
Get on board, Podders.
There's going to be a red card for each team as well. That's my prediction.
Wow.
Kane's got to be doing that off the top ball, isn't he? All match long. You know what you're going to get with Harry Kane. 4-0. Yeah, he's not even going to get a sniff. Partey's going to take him out of the game. Right, let's look at the transfers. We've got a few bits left just to tie up in case you think you're going to get sleeping bags out or anything like that. As we said, we discussed Mudryk. He's coming. Felix, are we disappointed, Lauren? Are we disappointed about that guy not coming? Look, if they don't want to play in an Arsenal shirt, don't bother booking your flight. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I watched the Barcelona Atleti game on Sunday, was it? And he didn't really offer that much. I mean, maybe it's because he knows he's going. He wasn't really putting that much of an effort in. I've never really watched a game where he's really stood out to me. I mentioned before, like, I like the idea of a loan, getting someone in for a loan. And I think I liked the idea of him because it was kind of that situation that would have been beneficial. If he wants to go to Chelsea, I think we haven't made any major losses there.
I've got to be honest, Podders. Why would you want to go to the Chavs? It's that, isn't it? It's that.
Has to be.
Promised a lot. You wouldn't otherwise, would you? I don't know enough about him as a player. Have you seen him, Paul? I'm not overly impressed from what I've seen. Obviously, on YouTube, they load up all the best bits, don't they?
But even I look good on YouTube playing football, Tom. So I wouldn't read too much into that.
6 minutes in a game.
Yeah. Well, he's never really convinced me. I think the phrase "flashes to deceive" kind of sums up his career so far. And I think it's a strange move that Chelsea agreed to as well, because they're paying a £10 million loan fee plus his wages as well. So you end up like paying 60 million for a player who isn't actually committed to the club. He's just there on loan with the view to either getting to move elsewhere or be established. Because Chelsea got no obligation to buy it, is my understanding of it as well. So so it just seems strange. I think I think Lon's raised some good concerns about João Felix. Whether he's the right fit for Arsenal is another question as well. Whether you want to be bringing in a player who's fallen out with his own manager into that dressing room, I'm not quite sure is that good a move as well. So it might well be the case that Arsenal dodged a bit of a bullet there. The time will only tell. But I wouldn't be losing too much sleep over that one, to be honest.
I've got to say, Chelsea fans, if anyone's got a Chelsea relation or whatever, Aubameyang got on the pitch as a sub and then got subbed off. There is a God after all. Danilo, Jay, the Brazilian, Forest are sniffing around 18 million. Surely that's a deal for us in the summer. I can't see him going to Forest.
No, definitely. We've been linked with him for a little while now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Just going back to Felix, I would have took him. I would have took him. Like, there's no, because I think, Paul, you said it earlier, and we've said it. I think, and the transfer made a lot of sense, and he's experienced. But I think I think today Simeone came out and said that he's leaving at the end of the season, and I think before Felix signed for Chelsea, he signed an extension to his contract. Some players, as we all know, just don't fit with managers. you know, and you think that maybe this move, I mean, God, like you said, Tom, God knows why you go and sign for Chelsea, especially at the minute, you know, and it's not the manager he's signing for, because Potter is, you know, outside of the Premier League, Potter hasn't got a massive reputation, you know, and you know, you expect him just to go back and play for a different manager at Madrid. I would have took him, but you know, we haven't got unlimited cash, I suppose, have we? So we can't match Chelsea, and we haven't been able to match them for years. So nothing new there. But Danilo, I'd be surprised if he went to Forest, because, you know, although, you know, I've got many friends that are Forest fans, they are still expected to go down, and they've signed so many players that they must be in their contracts, you know, relegation release clauses, and they'll be left with nobody. So you know, Danilo, yeah, go for it if we can. If there is a striker that we were looking at in the summer, why not go for it now? But you know, it's a shame about Felix, because I think, like Lauren said, the loan made perfect sense, but obviously we ain't got the cash.
Well, we've got a few possible outs, haven't we? Cedric, there's rumoured with Fulham. Pepe, they want to sort him out, and Balogun, someone's putting in a bid for him as well. So there could be a bit of to and fro, but I want to see Balogun stay, because
Would you bring Pepe back?
No,
just till the end of the season?
No. So many times, Jay, he set off. He put the burners on, but didn't take the ball with him. I was like, what are you doing?
I just think in the running, I think there's ability there. I know he's not everyone's.
There always has been, but it's just unlocking.
Wound me up like he wound everybody up. But I just think in certain situations, I always think worst case scenario, and I always think, you know, we're not going to get Mudryk, so then we're left with what we were at the start of the window. So I don't know about Pepe. I still think there's a player there. I do. Ultimately, though, he has been away long enough for me to forget all the bad.
Lauren, Yuri Tillemans, it's all gone quiet, isn't it? It's kind of one of those Arsenal things where it's all skullduggery and SAS and whispers round the corner. Are we still looking at him? Do you think he's going to come after all? I mean, because he's out of contract. They've got to sell him soon. 20 million will do the deal.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just a case of Arsenal. I mean, obviously we're being pushed from Shakhtar, and I think when Mudryk comes in, we're going to be way over budget there, way over what we anticipated. So I think it could potentially be a case of, you know, Edu waiting out as long as possible to try and get that last minute deal, you know, like you're booking a package holiday or something, the last minute, get as, you know, best value as possible. Because to me, I mean, we saw the game yesterday, the drop in quality from the midfield is not only shocking but really concerning. And to me, obviously we're talking about strikers here, you know, but I've said it before, I'll say it again, midfield is where we are in desperate need of a bit of bulking, and somebody with Premier League experience, you know, to me it's a perfect fit, and I think it would be a great signing, absolutely. And we haven't really been linked with that many other midfield players, so hopefully it's just one of those things that's kind of on the back burner, but we will hear a bit more traction come as the end of the window nears.
We're going to take it right down to the wire, aren't we, again?
I think now's the time to get Tillemans. I mean, Leicester just been knocked out the League Cup tonight, so there's nothing from his personal point of view there to keep there, because he's going to be involved in relegation still otherwise, isn't he? So, you know, if you're making the approach saying, well, you can join a team that's fighting for the Premier League and is playing in the Europa League still in the FA Cup, or you can be with Leicester City for the last 6 months of your career. To me, Tillemans, I mean, you've raved about Tillemans in the past as well, Jay, haven't you? I think he would be a really, really good addition for us, and at a price that could be afforded, given his contract's only got 6 months to run.
It would be a steal, absolute steal. Right then, let's just wrap up with, before we go, let's pay tribute to Gianluca Vialli. Sadly passed away at the age of 58. Paul, myself, you and Jay have seen Vialli. Sum him up for us if you can.
Yeah, fantastic footballer, fantastic guy, and not your typical footballer. I mean, he came from a very rich Italian family. You know, he kind of grew up in a house that had 60 rooms, so you know, he wasn't your typical working class hero sort of thing. You know, he financially probably didn't need to be a footballer, but yeah, very skillful guy. Everything you read about him before he died gave you an indication of what a good guy he was, and from a purely two bad memories of Vialli. One, I went to the Italy-Spain Euro semi-final, Wembley, last Sunday before last, and at the end when Vialli and Mancini hugged each other, that was a really touching moment. And from a purely selfish point of view, 97-98 season, our last game of the season when we needed Chelsea to beat Bolton for Everton to stay up, and Vialli scored Chelsea's first goal to put them one up against Bolton. I know you can hear everyone at Goodison Park, was everyone chanting Vialli, Vialli, Vialli. So Gianluca, whatever you are, we are eternally grateful for that goal. Thank you.
What about you, Jay? Memories of Gianluca?
Yeah, a great player. I
Probably
think
one of the best imports we've had in this country, isn't it?
Without a doubt. And the Chelsea team that he signed for, the club that he signed for was not the Chelsea that we know now. It was a, you know, we all remember the old ground, you know, with the cars parked behind the goal, and you know the old Stamford Bridge, and you know he came on the scene and he instantly made Chelsea. It wasn't just one or two levels. You're talking 5 or 6 levels. They'd gone up, and the whole reputation of the club went up just because of him. Obviously, Zola was there as well, but he was just a proper striker. But more than anything, you know, it's been brilliant reading and hearing about and watching it on TV, hearing just what a great guy he was, and what away from the pitch, what a gentleman he was, and really sad. And I think it's also important to note that Italy went and won the Euros, as we all know, a year or two back, and he was a major part of that. And then he obviously had to take a step back because of his illness, and Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup. And you know, he was, I think people will remember him for his footballing, you know, ability, and rightly so, because he was superb. But more than anything, I think it's in this day and age where more often than not, footballers are just not role models, and they're not nice people, pretty much. But he was, and great guy. I think universally loved across pretty much every football club, team, you know, fan base. So real shame, no age at all. So yeah, rest in peace, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
I spoke to Graham Ricks, former Arsenal midfielder, online, and he was just obviously he's absolutely gutted, like most people who knew him. And he just said what a great fella he was, a great human being, which was echoed by Graham Souness as well. And it was lovely. I don't know whether he saw it, but Souness, he'd only been told 10 minutes before he came on air, and he said, you know, he played a prank on him. And then he got it back tenfold. He said, like, he'd come back into the changing room and Vialli had cut his trousers in half, or he'd like made a shoe disappear, or some of his luggage and all that malarkey. So it really gave you an insight into, he wasn't just only a fabulous footballer, but he was a really top bloke and fun to be around as well. Managed Chelsea. Well, he played for Chelsea 1996 to 99. Managed Chelsea as well, 98 to 2000. FA Cup 96 to 97, League Cup 97 to 98, UEFA Cup Winners' Cup 97 to 98. Chelsea as a manager, FA Cup 99 to 2000, League Cup 97 to 98. FA Charity Shield 2000, UEFA Cup Winners' Cup 97-98, and the Super Cup in 1998. It's sad, isn't it? Last 2 pods, we've had to talk about really talented people that have passed away. Hopefully the next pod, it'll be a more joyous occasion and we won't have to do that. But, you know, let's celebrate these people for what they brought. And if you haven't seen Gianluca Vialli, you have to go onto YouTube and just look him up. There is one that's the best of, so you can play all that and get to know him if you didn't see him. Lauren.
I'll do my homework.
too young for it all, aren't you? Right, well, thanks a lot. I'm just going to leave you with this. Who's got £674.99? I'll tell you what you get for it. Have you got that sort of cash spare, Paul? Probably haven't you? You've chucked in your season ticket. That's spare, isn't it?
Paul's got that down the side of the sofa.
Yeah, look, it's up behind the cards on his mantle shelf.
Yeah, I've got my piggy banks just to the right. I'll crack mine open for you now.
Well, I came across this. So $674.99 buys you Gabriel Jesus's boots. So you can get those online from the 2020-21 season. But here's a fascinating fact, Podders. His left is a UK 8.75 and his right is an 8.5. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Get your money out. Go online. Who is it? bcboots.co.uk. So that's one for you. If you've got anything to say about the Arsenal, you want to ask us any questions, or you just want to go, hi, how you doing? It's an arsenalthing4@gmail.com. We will be back for the Spuds. 4-0, people. Madrid. We've got it all going on. Paul, thanks a lot. Sorry that you had a little bit of something on my screen. It was like, I don't know, a little bit of a moth. You had a moth on there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was flitting around at the start, but that's just one of those things. But yeah,
you made it. That was the main thing.
Yeah, well, against all odds, I managed to resurrect myself. So hopefully the same applies to Everton this season.
Well, let's hope they have. Jordan Pickford apparently he might be out the door. I don't want to add any angst to you already, but apparently his wage sort of request is a bit heavy.
He'll be gone in the summer. There's no question about that. I don't see any reason why I'd say that was in the summer. He'd be a really good sign for anyone who wants to take who wants an experienced, capable goalkeeper. I think Tottenham Hotspur would be an obvious choice for him because Lloris ain't going to be there much longer.
Yeah, you're not wrong, are you? Jay, brilliant to have you back. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you for the big one, 4-0. Yeah, honestly, Madrid. Yeah, keep going. Lauren, take care of yourselves, and I hope Barcelona gets a little bit warmer for you.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you all in your t-shirts. I'm thinking I must have done something wrong in my life. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, and the Christmas present. Who was that? Was it your chap bought you the Arsenal pink top?
Yeah, I got the Arsenal pink top. Yeah, it was actually my mother, which is even worse.
Was
But it was my mother, and I said to her, do you know what? She said, what you want for Christmas? And I couldn't think of a thing. And I said, you know what? Arsenal pink shirt, my favorite color, favorite team. There you go. And it arrived about 4 days later. It was actually, I was about to get on the flight back to Barcelona, and it arrived, and I opened it up and just said, it looks a bit small. And she said, yeah, it's a medium. Like, I said, okay. Brought it back anyway, and she said to me, she said something in passing, like, it was only €50 or something. And I thought, oh God, you have to get me a child's mum. So it's a bit of a tight squeeze, but New Year resolutions. It'll keep me on track.
Brilliant, guys. Thanks for another good podcast, and we'll see you on the North London Derby. Take care.
There, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.